Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching.
That's a powerful quote. It's C.S. Lewis, right?
It is. It's the kind of thing you expect to see on a plaque, something that implies a really high standard.
Absolutely. A standard that, doesn't change just because the lights are off. It speaks to character.
It really does. But here's the thing. We didn't find that quote in a book or on some motivational website.
Yep.
That quote is the email signature of Shannon Cummins. She's the city manager of Eunice, New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that adds a layer of context.
A huge layer of context. And based on the stack of documents we have in front of us today, that beautiful quote starts to sound, well, a little bit like bitter irony.
Right. It sets up a standard that we're about to test.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a story out of Eunice, New Mexico, where that very definition of integrity seems to have had a head-on collision with a very determined effort to keep things quiet.
And this isn't a news story, not really. If you live in Eunice, this has been a rumor for about 3 years now. Just whispers.
Exactly. You'd hear it at the store, at a game. Did you hear what happened with the baseball league money?
Something shady went down. But no one ever got a straight answer. The citizens were never officially told what happened. It was all handled internally, quietly, and as we're about to see, in a really bizarre way.
But today, we are pushing past the rumors. We have a mountain of documents we got through IPRA requests. That's the Inspection of Public Records Act. We have police reports, body cam transcripts, payroll notices.
We have the receipts. Or, I guess, the proof that there were no receipts.
Exactly. We're going to lay out what the City of Eunice apparently didn't want to say out loud.
And just a quick note before we dive in. This involves some really serious allegations, and the way the authorities handled it was unique.
Let's call it that. So to be careful, we're going to be very specific with our language. The central figure in all of this is a high-ranking city official. She's been working for the city since 2003, holds a position of significant trust.
But for our purposes today, we're just going to call her the high official.
Right, the high official. It sounds a bit formal, but the paper trail she left behind is very, very real. So where do we start?
We start on March 30th, 2023. It's a Thursday. A deputy from the Leon County Sheriff's Office gets a call to a residence in Eunice.
And it's not a barking dog complaint.
No. The call is about embezzlement.
Embezzlement, that's a heavy word. And it's not about some complex corporate scheme. This is about the Eunice Baseball youth team.
It's about kids' baseball. The deputy gets there, and he's met by the league's new board members. And they are angry. They are frustrated. We have the transcript from his body-worn camera. And honestly, calling the situation chaotic would be an understatement.
Reading that transcript, it felt like the financial Wild West. It seems the league had been run by just a couple of people for a long time.
For a very long time, yes.
Yeah.
And one of those people was this high official. And the financial system they described to the deputy, I mean, if you're an accountant, it would make your head spin.
It sounds like what you'd call a bank of one.
That's a perfect way to put it. The witnesses tell the deputy that the league's bank account wasn't set up properly. It wasn't under an EIN, an employer identification number.
Which is standard for any organization, right? It separates the business's money from your personal money. It's like rule number one.
It's the absolute basic first step. But no, this account was opened under the high official's personal Social Security number.
Okay, help me understand this setup. The report says the account was a DBA.
Right, doing business as. And this is crucial to understanding why this all went off the rails. The league didn't exist as a legal entity. There was no nonprofit status. The bank account was just a personal account under a Social Security number with the nickname Eunice Youth Baseball.
So, legally speaking, it was just her personal checking account.
For all intents and purposes, yes. Which meant no one else had access. No one else saw the statements. It was a complete black box.
Until the sheriff's investigator, Deputy McKnight, opened that box. And what he found is, well, let's look at the off-season spending.
This is the real smoking gun when it comes to that confirmed $4,500. The report details a series of ATM withdrawals. Now, if you look at the dates, October 2021, November 2021.
Wait, October and November. The World Series is over by then. Kids in New Mexico are not playing league baseball in November.
Precisely. The season is long over. There are no umpires to pay, no concession supplies to buy. Yet here are withdrawals for $400, $500, continuously popping up in the offseason.
And it totals $4,500.
$4,500.
So it's $4,500 confirmed, gone, just walked away in cash. But I'm looking at the witness statements from the other board members, and they did some math that is frankly terrifying.
The napkin math.
Yeah. One of the witnesses breaks down the concession stand revenue. Now, I've worked a concession stand before. It's a cash cow. They estimated the stand brought in about $1,200 a night.
That sounds about right for a busy league, for sure.
Okay, so let's run those numbers. They played 3 nights a week. That's $3,600 a week. A typical season is what, 10 weeks?
Well,
12 weeks? Even if we're conservative and say the season is 3 months, we are talking about revenue in the tens of thousands.
$30,000, maybe $40,000 range.
And yet, look at the deposit records for the entire 2022 season.
Total deposits, roughly $7,500.
That is a massive discrepancy.
It's not a discrepancy. That's a canyon. If they were making $3,600 a week, they should have hit $7,500 in, what, 2 weeks?
Exactly. Where did the rest of the money go for the other 10 weeks of the season?
And that is where the hypothetical theft becomes just staggering. We know $4,500 was taken via ATM in just 2 off-season months. But if you extrapolate that concession stand gap back to 2021, or maybe even 2020, we aren't talking about 4,000. We could be talking about tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars belonging to the kids of Eunice that just evaporated.
They then describe how the cash was handled.
The cash bags, I read that part. It's incredible.
It is. Usually you have a system, right? You count the cash, 2 people sign off, you log it in a book.
Trust but verify. It's just common sense, especially when it's not your money.
Right. Well, here, a witness says on a good concession night, they'd bring in maybe $1,200 in cash. They'd count it up and then just hand it to the high official in a bag.
Just a bag, not a locked deposit bag, not with a slip.
Just a bag. And here's the kicker. No receipt was ever given back.
Yeah.
No one ever saw a ledger showing the deposit. It was just cash into a bag, handed to a city official, and then it vanished.
Into the account under her social security number, you'd assume, but who knows?
Nobody knows. That's the whole point. It was a system based on pure blind faith. And that faith finally ran out in February of 2023 when a new board was formed.
And these new people, they wanted to do things by the book. They started asking completely normal questions.
Totally reasonable questions. Can we see the bank statements? How much money's in the account? Who has the debit card?
So how did the high official respond to this sudden demand for, basic accountability?
The transcript from a police body cam, this is from one of our key sources, where a witness is describing the moment everything just fell apart.
Yeah, listen to this quote.
Wednesday night, he resigned. He's like, I'll go in and close account and just give you all the money. You got it from here. And then I was like, no, they're not. Yeah, we're going to get that statement.
It's the immediacy of it that it really stands out to me. Another witness follows up right away with this.
What'd they say?
He wanted to close that account real fast. Like, it was like, I'm going to close the account. Let's move the money over.
That is the sound of someone trying to pull the ripcord. That is the sound of someone realizing the walls are closing in.
It's the reaction that, for the parents, just validated all their suspicions.
Yeah.
If it's just messy paperwork, you sit down and you sort it out.
Of course.
You don't try to liquidate the account and run. That flight response is usually a sign that someone knows the jig is up. That's not the behavior of someone who has nothing to hide. That is panic. If everything was legitimate, you'd just print out the statements, hand over the checkbook, and say, good luck.
You'd think so. Rushing to the bank to basically destroy the account's transactional ability is, well, it's a massive red flag.
So the deputy is hearing all of this. He's got a clear embezzlement allegation, a bizarre bank account under a personal SSN, cash disappearing into bags. Surely this launches a major investigation.
It sounds like it should, right?
Yeah.
The deputy takes her report seriously. He gives them a case number and tells them it's going to an investigator now. He says it's his baby now.
Okay, it's his baby now. That sounds promising.
It does. The case goes to a Detective McKnight. He reviews it, and then on April 3rd, 2023, that's just 4 days after the initial report was filed, the case is closed.
4 days? No! How is that possible?
And remember, a weekend was in there. So we're talking about maybe 2 actual business days of investigation.
That's not enough time to even get a bank to respond to a subpoena, let alone conduct a forensic audit of years of transactions.
Exactly. And the official determination, and I'm quoting the report, no crime was committed and any dispute would need to be resolved civilly.
How? How on earth is this not a crime?
And this is the part that is going to frustrate a lot of people, but it's a vital lesson in organizational structure. The investigator, McKnight, concluded that this was a civil dispute, not a criminal one.
Explain that, because taking money that isn't yours is stealing.
It is, but it comes back to that DBA status and the lack of an EIN. You see, in the eyes of the law, The Eunice Youth Baseball League didn't exist. It wasn't a person, and it wasn't a corporation.
So there was no victim?
Legally.
No.
Because there were no bylaws, there was no contracts. Look, imagine you and a roommate put cash in a jar for pizza.
Okay.
If your roommate takes 20 bucks out of the jar and buys beer instead,
Hmm.
is that embezzlement?
I mean, I'd be mad. I'd want my money back.
You'd be furious. But you can't call the police and have them arrested for embezzlement. They essentially declared the situation too messy for the criminal justice system and punted it to civil court.
Which is incredibly convenient, isn't it? Especially when the person at the center of it all is a high-ranking city official, a well-connected person.
It feels very convenient.
Yeah.
And once the police stepped away, a wall of silence went up. The community was left with rumors. But there was one piece of evidence in our source material that just gave me chills.
You're talking about the Facebook message?
The Facebook message? Yeah. A citizen, trying to figure out what was really going on, sends a message to one of the key witnesses. A very simple question. Are you at liberty to speak about this? Basically, can you tell me what happened?
A fair question. What was the answer?
The witness replies with just 3 words, I wish I could.
Oh, man, I wish I could.
Yeah. That's not a no. That's not a I don't want to talk about it. That sounds like someone who has been told not to talk. It implies there was a settlement or a gag order or just a very real fear of what would happen. Spoke out.
So the police case evaporates and the witnesses are silenced. And the story just dies.
It dies publicly, yes. But the problem didn't just go away for the City of Eunice. They still had an employee, a very senior employee, who had been at the center of a pretty ugly financial scandal.
Right. Even if the detective decided it wasn't criminal, it's certainly a huge ethical problem. You can't have someone in a position of public trust who's allegedly mishandling thousands of dollars from a youth league.
It's a massive breach of trust. So the question becomes, what did the city do about it?
Let's follow that timeline. The police closed the file on April 3rd, 2023. What happens next at City Hall?
Well, about a month goes by. Then, on May 8th, the Eunice City Council holds a meeting. And on the agenda is a vote to go into a closed session to discuss personnel matters.
Personnel matters. The magic words for we're about to discuss something we definitely don't want the public to hear.
Exactly. It's a legal mechanism, but it can also be used to hide things. And what followed that meeting is just a masterclass in bureaucratic stonewalling.
And this is where a citizen becomes the hero of our story. She's the one who filed all these IPRA requests. She heard the rumors that the high official was put on probation, and she wanted proof.
A very reasonable thing to ask. If a public employee is disciplined, that should be a matter of public record.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah.
So she files a request for any documents explaining why the high official was placed on probation, what policy was violated, what was the justification.
And we know for a fact that probation happened. Later payroll documents explicitly say probation period complete. So it's not a rumor. It's real.
So what did the city provide when asked for the reason?
The city's official response was, and I'm quoting again, no records have been found.
What? How do you put a 20-year veteran employee on probation without a single piece of paper explaining why? No memo, no letter, nothing.
Their excuse is as brazen as it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They claim the whole matter was handled verbally in that May 8th closed session, and this is the key part, no notes were taken.
No notes were taken. Are you serious? You have a formal city council meeting, you go into a closed session to discipline a senior staff member over an embezzlement scandal, and not one single person writes anything down.
That is their official story. That this major disciplinary action was taken without creating any record of it whatsoever. No written warning, no performance improvement plan, nothing. It's governance by whisper.
Is that even allowed? I thought the Open Meetings Act was just about keeping the discussion private, not erasing the result.
You are exactly right. The Open Meetings Act allows a city council to go behind closed doors to discuss personnel matters so they don't embarrass an employee publicly while debating their fate. But, and this is a huge but, any action taken, any decision made, usually has to be documented. You cannot manage a city government on verbal warnings alone.
That is just... It's administratively impossible to believe any private company would have a mountain of paperwork for that. How can a government entity get away with that?
It's a perfect cynical loophole. If you never create the record, you can't be forced by the Public Records Act to release the record. It's a way to make the truth legally invisible.
So it's not that they're hiding the records, they're claiming the records were never even born.
Exactly. The fact that they are claiming no records exist implies one of two things. Either they are completely incompetent and running a city government via word of mouth, or They deliberately chose not to create a paper trail.
The "if we don't write it down, it didn't happen" defense.
Exactly. It effectively hid the disciplinary action from public view. They took a space designed for privacy, and they weaponized it to avoid accountability. Integrity isn't a quote and an email signature. It's producing the records even when it's embarrassing. It's firing the employee who stole from kids, even if she's been there for years.
It really highlights the disconnect. Publicly, they talk about integrity. Privately, they're ensuring that no paper trail ever sees the light of day.
And it gets even crazier. The citizen pushes back. She asks them for the city policy that even allows them to put a 20-year employee on probation.
Because probation is usually for new hires, right? It's that initial 6-month period.
Correct. So she asks for the policy, and the city replies that there is no formally adopted policy, and that it's all up to the discretion of the city manager.
But that's not true. We have the city's own policy manual in our sources. It explicitly discusses a probationary period.
It absolutely does. But by claiming it's all just discretionary, they sidestep their own written rules, which would of course require documentation. They're basically saying, we're making this up as we go along to handle this specific situation.
It's a total gaslight. The policy you're looking at doesn't apply because we say it doesn't.
And who is the city manager with all this discretion? Shannon Cummins.
The woman with the integrity email signature.
The very same. She's the one overseeing this whole process, a process designed from the ground up to leave no trace, to give a citizen asking legitimate questions the legally sound but completely dishonest answer of, we have nothing.
It's infuriating. I can't imagine how frustrating that must be for the people living there.
But here's the thing about bureaucracy. You can try to hide things in closed sessions, but you can't hide everything. You can't pay people with whispers.
Always follow the money.
Always. The payroll records are much harder to obscure. And the payroll change notices for the high official, well, they tell a story that is frankly jaw-dropping.
Okay, let's break down the numbers. What was she making and what happened after this secret, no notes taken probation?
All right, so we're looking at a payroll change notice from after her probation ended. Before this, her hourly wage was listed at $41.60 per hour.
$41.60 an hour. For a full-time job, that's about $86,500 a year.
A very good salary. But this payroll notice is for a pay change. Her probation is over, and her new wage is, well, it's not a pay cut.
It went up.
It went up to $45.17 an hour.
Hold on, let me get this straight. She's at the center of an embezzlement scandal. The police call it a civil matter. The city puts her on a secret probation with no paper trail. And at the end of it, they give her a raise.
A substantial raise. And if you look at the reason given on the form, it says performance increase and a COA, a cost of living adjustment.
A performance increase.
As a performance increase.
What performance could they possibly be rewarding? The performance that got her investigated by the sheriff's department and put on probation in the first place. It makes no sense.
It defies all logic of how employment and discipline are supposed to work. Probation is a warning. It's a period where you are supposed to prove you deserve to keep your job. It is almost never accompanied by a performance raise.
So let's run the numbers on that. She goes from about $87,000 a year to, what, over $93,000?
Closer to $94,000 a year, base pay. Roughly a $7,000 annual raise.
So not only were there no criminal consequences, not only were there no public disciplinary records, she was actually financially rewarded for her behavior.
It certainly looks that way. This high official, after this whole scandal, is doing better financially than she was before.
The contrast is just staggering. You have the baseball parents who lost money and had their trust shattered, and you have the person they accused who ends up with a bigger paycheck.
It brings us right back to that word, doesn't it? Integrity.
It really does. Let's say it again. Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching.
Well, in Eunice, it seems the addendum to that is, and if you get caught, we'll make sure no one was officially watching, and then we'll give you a raise.
It's cynical, but the documents back it up. This wasn't just one person making one bad decision. This was a system closing ranks. It sends a message, doesn't it? We don't care.
Or we are protecting our own. This is where the story shifts from just one bad apple to systemic rot. And even their response, the no records found, became the smoking gun. In a situation like this, the absence of a record is a record of a cover-up. It's proof that they knew they couldn't justify their actions in writing. It really shows the power imbalance, doesn't it? The city has its lawyers, its procedures, its closed sessions. The average citizen just has their voice. And if that voice is suppressed, what's left?
The documents are left. And that's what we have. We have the proof of the secret bank account. We have the proof of the lightning-fast investigation. We have the proof of the no-notes probation. And we have the proof of the pay raise.
We connected the dots that they tried so hard to erase. And the picture it paints is, well, it's not pretty.
No, it's not. And it makes you wonder, if they're not taking notes on something this serious, what else are they deciding verbally, behind closed doors with no public record?
That's the bigger fear, isn't it? That this isn't an anomaly, that no notes were taken is standard operating procedure. If that's the case, then public oversight is a complete illusion.
It's a chilling thought. So let's bring it back to city manager Shannon Cummins and her signature.
The C.S. Lewis quote.
Yeah. She's the one who's ultimately in charge. Her signature is on that payroll form approving the raise. She's the one who used her discretion.
So she invites us to judge her by that standard of integrity. Was it doing the right thing to give a performance raise to an employee just coming off probation for alleged embezzlement?
Was it doing the right thing to orchestrate a disciplinary process that left zero public trace?
I think anyone listening can come to their own conclusion on that.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If they fought this hard to hide the records about a baseball league, what else is in that closed session black hole?
That is the scary part. If this is how they handle a few $1,000s from a nonprofit, how are they handling the big city contracts, the construction bids, the real money?
If they don't write it down, we'll never know.
And that is why the civil loophole matters. That is why the IPRA matters. Because without those paper trails, the truth just vanishes.
Usually in these deep dives, we find shades of gray, but this feels different.
The facts are just so stark. Money mishandled, account hidden, investigation squashed, records non-existent, employee rewarded. It's a straight line.
It really is, and it makes you ask that question you brought up earlier.
What would happen to you?
Exactly. What would happen to you, the listener? If you were a cashier at the local grocery store and were accused of skimming from the register, would your boss call it a civil matter and then give you a raise next year?
Of course not. You'd be fired. You'd probably be arrested. There are clearly two sets of rules at play in Eunice, New Mexico.
And that's the real cancer here. It's not just about the missing baseball money anymore. It's about the fundamental idea of equal justice.
The town motto is, friendly people, proud town. It's hard to feel proud when it seems like fairness only applies to some of the people.
So now that the facts are out, what can the people of Eunice even do?
Well, they have the information. Now they can go to those council meetings and ask the questions. Why were no notes taken? On what basis did a high official on probation receive a performance increase?
Because no records were found is not a legitimate answer in a democracy. It's an excuse.
It should not be an acceptable answer.
We've laid out a lot today. The bank of one, the silent witness, the invisible probation, and the very, very visible pay raise.
It's the anatomy of a cover-up, pieced together from the documents they couldn't completely hide.
And I just can't get that quote out of my head. Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching.
I think the Eunice version might be, our job is to make sure no one is watching.
That's a dark thought. But based on the evidence, it's a fair one. This is a cautionary tale for any town where a few people hold all the power.
And where those people have decided that creating records is optional.
For everyone listening, we hope this has shown you the power of public records. It took a determined citizen fighting for months to get these documents, but they tell a story that would have otherwise stayed a rumor forever.
That knowledge is the only antidote to the no notes taken defense.
So, as we wrap up, here's a final thought for you to take with you. We've talked a lot about the money the high official was paid by the city, her salary, her raise, but we never found out for sure what happened to all that cash from the baseball league. We know about the $4,500 because the bank took photos of the ATM withdrawals. We know about the concession money because volunteers did the math. But think about the cash. Concession stands run on cash. Entry fees are cash. If the bank deposits were that low, just how much cash never even made it to the bank bag? How much money from the families of Eunice went straight into a pocket, untraced, unrecorded, and unrecoverable? If that money was all accounted for and everything was above board, why the panic? Why close the account? Why hide everything? And if it wasn't all there, where did it go?
We will likely never know.
And apparently neither does the City of Eunice. Or maybe they just didn't write it down.
And that silence is maybe the most damning fact of all. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. We see this phrase, no notes were taken, regarding the probation of a high-ranking public official. If a public official manages private funds poorly enough to warrant a probation, but the government refuses to document why, does the public actually have a right to know who is handling their tax dollars? Or does the friendly people motto of Eunice, New Mexico rely on keeping the peace over keeping the receipts?
That is a question every citizen in Eunice should probably be asking at the next council meeting.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Check your local league's 501c3 status, everyone. We'll see you next time.